Hey, we're back with episode 2 of Basic Gear Review Podcast. As always, I'm Chris, joined by Will Agtang and Nick Buffet.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hey. All right, so Will, what were you playing there at the intro?
I was just kind of jamming. I'm using the your Precision-Based Special, the Guitar Center edition. It's got that nice seafoam green on there, and you got the EMG geezers in there.
You had to throw the Guitar Center thing in there. That's the one part I tried.
Where else are you going to get it? It's not like I'm lying.
That is true. It is unfortunately a Guitar Center exclusive.
It's nice as shit, though, and you put the new pickups in there, and so it's really, really cool. And then we're running through the
pickups?
Aguilar Tonehammer 500, which is a superb bass amp, in my opinion. Aguilar in general, superb company.
Aguilar makes a great product. Anyway, you mentioned the aftermarket pickups. You want to...
Oh, yeah, so I'm not sure what the stock ones were. I'm not sure if you do either, or if you are either.
They're just Fender Mexican, I think, just...
You got the Geezer EMG set, the PJ set, and I was impressed by the J pickup in it because it really it's voiced really closely to the P, but it's obviously a J pickup. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's also hot enough, like it keeps up with the P. Whereas I've noticed a lot of times when you have a PJ configuration, the J pickup is usually quieter for whatever reason.
Totally.
So this one's pretty balanced. I like this a lot, and it's got the high mass bridge, so the sustain and the harmonics and everything are just beautiful on this thing.
Yeah, we actually got a comment on when we did the video for the Geezer set that I'm trying to look for his name, but he wished that you would have given more opinion on them.
Oh,
so
okay, well,
maybe this is the perfect vehicle. I know you kind of did a little bit. But.
Yeah, I think the EMG did a great job emulating Geezer's tone and getting what he sounded like on those first few albums. Honestly, through his whole career, but the first few are the ones where you really hear it. And it's just got that nice, it's almost like you're running into an Ampeg, like an SVT Classic at all times, no matter what. You know what I mean? It's got that really nice, clanky tone that he has. And with some flats, this is probably really good. It's probably exactly how he sounds. So I really like him. I have the Steve Harris Seymour Duncans in my bass, and it's really, I just want another bass so I can have these also. You know what I mean? It's not even a preference thing. It's really just whatever fits the song or whatever you're playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I really like them. I think they're really cool. They're really full and really big and really even sounding.
Nick, you got to play him once, right?
I did. Actually,
you want to play him again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Is that a serious question? Of course I do.
So smooth. So nice.
These are real nice pickups. They're super powerful. I don't know. They obviously have a lot of output. I don't know what the specific decibel is, but man, they just sound real powerful and real punchy. Yeah. And especially when you what kind of string? These feel like pretty new strings. Are you running your elixirs that you normally do?
Yeah, those are elixir stainless steel.
Okay.
Been on there for as long as I've had the bass, which I want to say I bought it in May.
Yeah.
April or May.
Okay. 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I take good care of my clean them and stuff. So
were you running?
Yeah, so that's a good month and a half of play, which is actually a huge testament to the elixir strings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Elixir strings are bomb diggity.
Yeah. I was wide open.
Wide open both pickups.
Yeah, wide open both pickups. Tone all the way open. I felt the want to close the tone a little bit just to roll off a little bit of the clack, just because we're
that's what you get with the elixirs too. You know what I mean? Just a little more than most strings. So.
Well, I like to run them on my P bass as well. My P bass pickups are not quite as lively as these, and I like to run them too because they have so much life to them.
For so long too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
For such a long time. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm either playing my P bass or my jazz bass pretty much constantly. I probably play every day at this point, whether I'm just at home, trying to work out of the real book. That's what I've been doing lately. Is I bought a copy of the real book, and I'm spending a lot of time in that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's just trying to get my chops up to par. So, I mean, whether I'm playing my P bass or my jazz bass, I've been wanting to put elixirs on there. And it's just nice to not have to sweat it. I can just roll up to a gig and be like, oh, God, I hope they didn't die in the day and a half I had off from gigging or whatever. And then I play them and I was like, oh, they're brand new. Cool, no problem.
Which is how it should be.
Yeah, I was running the Elixir Pro Steels for a long time, which are still the Elixir, or excuse me, not the Elixir Pro Steels, the Diodario Pro Steels. I was running the Diodario Pro Steels for a long time, and then I was running the NYXLs for a long time as well. Mm-hmm. NYXLs are probably my favorite set of strings.
Yeah, those are both great strings.
But I mean, if I don't have time to change strings, or if it's going to be on my jazz bass, pardon me, I love running elixirs. They're just it's nice to not have to sweat it, you know.
Yeah, I played with my fingers for the longest time, exclusively, and I've always loved the elixirs for that. And then I just recently started playing with Jazz 3, a huge pick, just because the band I'm in is a little more pick based
Yeah.
when it comes to bass, literally. Anyway, I noticed that like my bass gets like dandruff after playing elixirs with a pick because I get that coating.
Oh,
I
you're
hit
just
it so hard.
carving that coating off.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. So like after every show, I kind of got to dust it off and get a little rag and like, oh, someone's got to get some Head and Shoulders in here. So that's the only downside I've noticed lately to elixirs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to find something similar, but I just don't want to change my strings that often. That's the biggest thing. I'm not made of money. You know what I mean? I'm not
Right.
trying to buy strings every 2 weeks. So
Yeah, for sure.
I love Elixir. I've been using them exclusively.
I use them exclusively on guitar, whether it be
Yeah, oh,
acoustic
yeah.
or electric, not like exclusively. But
Yeah.
bass is where I switch it up because I like flats sometimes.
The nickels
you
do have a little bit less high end.
know. That's what I use.
Yeah.
So I have nickels on my number one over here. He's got the stainless steels on.
Right.
I like to have a little too much high end and then just be able to roll the tone
That's
back.
understandable.
That's true. Easier to warm down than it is to brighten up.
But anyway, as far as the opinion on the Geezer pickups, I found the user. It was Sharktooth 5000.
Sharktooth 5000.
What a name.
Coolest username.
He says, what did he say? I wish that you would have included what you did or did not like about these pickups, as I am definitely considering putting these in my micro bass.
Will they fit in a micro bass?
I would think so.
No, that's the Ibanez GR whatever.
Yeah.
Little dude, right? Are those routed for a normal...
I was going to say that's like that. You would have to retrofit like a humbucker type thing in those, right?
I just
assuming
don't-
that it had a PJ configuration.
Okay,
you should-
It does.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
it
Micro
does?
has a PJ
Okay,
configuration,
okay.
but I could be
would be
totally
okay.
mistaken. And if I'm totally mistaken, hell yeah, go out and buy these pickups tomorrow because you'll be stoked.
Oh yeah, especially in that.
Buy them right now. What are you doing? Stop listening to this podcast.
Do we have,
Okay,
do
well,
we
let's
have any
open a new
cons?
tab.
Do we have any cons on the pickups?
I'm not sure price point. I'm not sure if I didn't pay
About
for them.
150 approximately.
That's not too bad for
And
a
that's,
set.
totally
that's
reasonable.
For a
everything
set?
you need.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
everything included.
So I mean, it's really no skin off your ass, even if you don't like them. You know, toward the end, it's like it's not too much money
Yeah,
spent,
just resell 'em.
and I guarantee that they're going to be better than whatever is in that bass right now.
There'll be a massive upgrade than the whatever Ibanez is putting in their micro basses right now, which is just their kind of stock, like Chinese pups, which I mean are cool. I mean it's a short scale bass. My only concern though is just make sure that they will fit for a standard precision bass pickup and a standard jazz bass pickup, because I know for a fact it's an overall smaller body, which leads me to believe that it's actually smaller pickups. I could be mistaken, but I would just make 100% certain.
Yeah.
Before I went and bought
Get the
stuff.
old measuring tape out.
Yeah.
I've recently been noticing too on a lot of things, like a lot of things with P bass pickups that aren't necessarily a Fender P bass. They flip the orientation of the pickups. That
Yeah,
way,
the treble side is closer to the
Yeah,
neck.
exactly. That way you get a little bit more evenness.
Your Thunderbird
throughout.
has that.
My Thunderbird has that, and then I saw a couple online when I was scrolling through Instagram that
Yeah.
had that, and the Warwicks do that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different ones, and I really want to
Yeah.
try. But my question is like, do you know if the micro bass has traditional P style or the reverse?
To my recollection, it is a traditional piece.
Okay,
style.
cool.
Yeah,
I would
don't
think it wouldn't
that would
matter.
sort it. No, that
As
shouldn't
far as
matter. Then you should be able to
installation
just,
goes.
Yeah,
Oh,
then
no,
you
that's
just flip
true.
them
That's
upside
true.
It
down.
wouldn't
That's
matter
true.
because they're separate.
Yeah.
We got another comment on the same video, actually from one of our patrons. So real quick, let's just take a quick
Moment
salute.
of silence.
Salute to everybody on Patreon. Thank you all so much.
Goodbye.
This comment comes from Ryan Denley. Oh, I want to get in on this.
Yeah.
I gotta
Cheers to the
be
Patreon.
moderator.
Yeah.
Cheers to Patreon. Hopefully one day we can all retire. Anyway, Ryan Denley says, I'd love to hear a comparison between the Steve Harris SPB4 and the EMG GZR P-Bass pickup. They both have a bit more push and grind in the lower mids that really screams classic rock tone to me. Well, Ryan is in luck because Will brought along his number one equipped with the Steve Harris SPB4.
Oh yes, I did.
So, you want to throw a little back-to-back through the tone
Yeah,
gamma?
yeah. Give me a second. Do you want to play this and then I'll play mine, or should we both play?
Yeah, we'll just, we'll wing it. Cool. Ooh, I haven't had this in a while.
Damn good.
Oh, Petaluma, California.
Yeah.
That's where Mesa's from.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
What was that dude's name? TN.
Yeah, TN.
Awesome.
That dude was so
Got a
cool.
little friend named Chaozu. I'm surprised that took you so long.
Yeah, it
dude.
took him a while.
me a second.
Like
I'm sorry.
TN right off the bat when I hear that, I'm just like, I
I've only
instantly
ever
think,
heard that on Dragon Ball Z and Mesa.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Tian Shan, if I remember correctly.
One of the
his
most-
last name was Shan.
One of the most depressingly funny things in Dragon Ball Z was when Chaozu goes to kill Nappa and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like he just
Yeah.
blows himself up and Nappa's just like, okay. It was so sad. Okay. So here
Okay,
we have
Steve Harris.
SPB4s in my precision bass. What is it? American
American
Special.
I think just for the sake of equality, since the Geezer is a PJ set, we should just
leave it just P.
Yeah,
Yeah,
deactivate
absolutely.
the jazz bass and just do tone wide open. I guess.
Cool. Perfect. Here we go. Since we're on podcast, I'm going to play an Iron Maiden riff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right off the bat, that low mid is like just screams Steve Harris. You know what I mean? Like they did it so well, as I was saying earlier. Same with the Geezers, and like this one's really nice for what I'm doing in my band right now, just because we have two guitarists that are like insanely loud, and so it's that perfect low mid that pushes me through the mix, but doesn't muddy it up. Like it's obviously a different instrument. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say that frequency is super punchy, but not muddy.
Exactly.
It's not like
perfect.
sloppy.
It's really nice, and running through my basement, it's just amazing. Especially get that grind on there, and I pump the mids when I do driven tones, and it's just like perfect.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You want to have Nick play it?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Maiden riffs.
Yeah.
Or do you want to go straight to Geezer, just for the sake of? All right, whatever.
No, yeah, you just play.
I'll
Yeah,
just do Maiden.
doing
Okay.
a thing.
Let's see if I can remember my Maiden. It's been a while. Oh man, it's been a while.
He just writes like the coolest bass lines. I
It's
swear
that-
to God, they're
that
just
brum, brum, brum,
so
brum.
invigorating to play. You
Those
just feel like the
triplets.
biggest badass ever.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, you want to go straight to Geese?
I want to do the Geezer. Yeah, give me
Sweet.
that. This is kind of a cool moment for you, because I think, as we talked about on the podcast, like, dude, growing up, Geezer Butler and Steve Harris were big inspirations for me, as like starting off as like a rock player.
Yeah, and
yeah.
here you go.
Yeah, no, it's a good.
This is
it's a good
Nick's
moment.
episode right here.
Right.
Kind of all of our episodes.
Are we on just the P?
So yeah, no jazz bass,
Nice.
just neck wide open, tone wide open, jazz bass closed off. Yeah, so just precision bass. So.
Nails it.
Yeah, really.
That's like
That's like
that's
the
yeah.
tones.
Yeah,
The
I'm
flat
old.
ones would make it more so.
Exactly, but other than that, same with the Steve though. You know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah.
flats are kind of the key to that.
I don't know if
tone,
we
but-
established this, but both of these basses have elixir. Mine's
yeah,
the
yours
stainless
stainless
steel,
steel,
yours
mine's
is
the nickel, which I could tell definitely playing them through that. You
yeah,
can hear it.
but you do hear that mid characteristic of the
Oh, yeah.
pickup as well.
Mhm.
You know,
It's really nice.
and I think you were saying earlier too that both Seymour Duncan and EMG did a great job.
Tremendous job.
Yeah.
Emulating the tones. It's
Absolutely.
crazy. It's so good. So here I go. We'll do just P on this one too. They're just so good.
Oh.
And you play up like right at the neck, you get that real like that crazy attack that he has, and it's so good.
Okay, I
So
want to do
good.
one thing. This is going to require me to do a little bit of post, but give it back to Nick just for a second. And if Nick could do the lick on each one, and then I'll
I'm into
I'll put them back to back.
All right. Can I get a metronome just for the sake
It's
of
191.
I got you.
Oh, we got to memorize. I know.
Yeah.
It's like great. Let me just bust out. Oh, you have the better metronome app. Oh wait, here's the metro timer.
I have no idea what I use.
I'll try. What is it? 191.
191. love that lick.
Like I said, you can really like tell, like hear the difference in strings, like the stainless steel versus the nickel, because I've never personally like sat down and heard them side by side. Mm-hmm. So it's actually really cool hearing that as well on top of the pickups.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I personally, I like the stainless steel.
I like them both. It's just I've just never heard them side by side. It's just interesting to hear the differences. Because they always say, like, the nickel's warmer. But when you don't hear the stainless steel, you're like, these are still super bright elixirs. So I don't know what you're talking about. So it makes sense.
Do we have a preference? Each of us have a preference.
Like I said earlier, it's really just a matter of, like, what you're going for. Like I said, in Knucklehead right now, that low-mid bump in the Steve Harris ones is perfect for what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. However, if I was in, like, a three-piece or something, I'd probably use the geezers because they're just so big, and I don't necessarily have to stand out. I just kind of have to fill sonic space, and they're huge.
Yeah.
So if it was like one guitarist, one drummer, one bassist, I'd definitely use the geezers. Whereas in a two guitarist scenario, the Steves are nice just because it gives you personal like bass definition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. I agree. Yeah, the Steve Harris on first inclination or first response, the low end is significant, super boomy, big and punchy. The geezers tend to be they just notice to be just powerful overall. Just a lot more punch across the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is very much what situation you're going to be using them in.
The Steves sounded a bit tighter.
Yes, I noticed that. Almost compressed.
Like a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the geezers had that open, airy.
That's very
characteristic
true.
to them. Mm-hmm. So that kind of leads me into what else I wanted to talk about. Since you guys both have a lot of extensive experience, either recording or playing live. Nick more so, I would say live. Will more so recording, but both on either side.
I feel like we both got enough of both.
And I have a lot of experience playing in my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
That's
where you get the best. So I don't know why you're laughing.
I have
that's
a
the one.
nightly gig at my favorite club called The Couch. It's like
it's actually pronounced Cooch.
In Portland, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cooch Street. That's a thing. Yeah,
that really is a thing. Anyway,
so I wanted to ask you guys. The tone in your bedroom can be awesome. You can dial it in, be like, oh, this is the coolest thing. And then once you get in a live or studio situation, you need to dial in something totally different that maybe you would think on its own, I don't really like the mid-range or whatever, because scooping the mids is really popular when you're solo playing. So I wanted to get your opinion on what would make a good live tone, and we have the tone hammer, so we can kind of fiddle with some knobs if we want. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to hear both of your opinions on what you think makes a good live bass tone.
Who's first?
I've just noticed I don't know, flopping on gigs and totally like crashing and burning on a couple, and then having some gigs where I felt very happy. I've noticed that originally I thought, okay, I definitely want a lot more mid-range just to cut through overall. Mm-hmm. But then I was like, man, I'm kind of losing on treble. I'm not getting bright enough. And then I was like, man, I'm losing a lot of low end. So it's a couple things. My first response is going to be, it totally depends on the size of the room. If I'm playing, say, Amigos, which is a relatively small club, really nice and intimate. I love playing Amigos because I'm like, there is no stage. I'm just right
you're
there.
also it's like a punk show.
Dude, you're right there. Like,
it's cool.
Dudes are falling on your pedal board and like
spilling beer all over your expensive
place.
stuff.
Like it's rad. It's part of the fun.
That's
true.
It's part of the magic.
Yeah, you cross your fingers and hope for the best. I find I want to have a lot more low end, just because I need people to boogie, because I'm not going to be as loud, but I want to make sure they feel it. So I find I'm pushing a little bit more low end. Whereas if I play the Tavern, I just need to be loud. I just need to be loud.
Yeah, I saw you at the Tavern last week, and you had the SVT.
Right. I brought
talk about
Amigos,
loud.
Yeah, when you were at Amigos, you had the Fender Rumble.
That was for the open mic night. Actually,
that's true.
When we saw Seaside Band and Amigos, you had your SVT though, if I recall.
Yes.
Right. That's been that is going to be my go-to amp unless I'm playing a really small club. Like I do play a couple small clubs here and there where that would just be totally like the stage. Like the stage would fit. It wouldn't fit on the stage. No, I found overall I definitely want to make sure I'm focusing on low end so people can dance and people can move. Right now, kind of where my ear's at, that seems to be one of the more important things. Yeah,
that's good. I've noticed comparing it to like playing in your room. You have, when you're by yourself, you have the entire sonic thing to work with. You know what I mean? So all of your frequencies are coming through and you dial in something that sounds really good by itself. The second you're in a group of people, you have to find your sonic space in which you sit. You know what I mean? And suddenly all of that 75% of your tone that you dialed in to sound really cool, you can't hear or it's gone. It just gets muddy. And so, I don't know. I feel like another thing too is volume. A lot of people mistake EQ for volume. You know what I mean? Like they'll compensate in their treble as opposed to just bringing their level up,
Yeah.
which is something I did for a long time because for a very long time I didn't have like a very good amp. You know what I mean? They were all like super low wattage stuff, and I was trying to keep up with these people who are playing super loud, and so I would just like my EQ was trash because I was just trying to get somebody to hear me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The second I got a louder amp, you realize like you can be really, really modest with your EQ if you have volume to back yourself up.
Yeah.
So, and another thing I noticed is like if you're playing, this is now I'm talking studio. If like you hear, if the song opens with a bass line, you hear all that really good stuff that you hear when you're in your bedroom, and then when the music comes in, it settles. And I'm not sure that's like magic to me. I think that's so cool. And then you can really listen, like, because when you're in the studio, you can manipulate so many more things and layer everything way better than when you're just a sound guy at a show. But I think it's like amazing how in studio you can retain that bedroom tone while retaining your sonic space as well, like you would live. I
found that a lot with like overdrives and distortions too. One thing you mentioned,
yes.
like, yeah, dude, if it opens with like a ripping bass line that's all fuzzed out, it's like, yeah, that's awesome. And then the guitar comes in and it's like, oh, it just sounds like a bass guitar again. You know, in a live situation, you lose a lot of that.
You lose a ton of that. And what's cool is that like if you just plug a fuzz pedal straight into if you're coming straight out of the amp, you know, like fuzz, and you don't have any kind of low end compensation, like any kind of LS2 or anything like that, you know what I mean?
Boss line selector.
You can totally bump that stuff in post. So it's so cool. You can get like almost any tone in the studio because of how much you can manipulate it. Whereas with live stuff, you kind of really got to pick wisely to make sure that you're being heard.
You get one shot for the most part.
Exactly. So it's really about, like Nick said, the room you're in and the people you're playing with are two of the most important things.
You're in a 4-piece surf punk.
It's like a surf punk type of thing. Yeah, just
very
noisy
loud
stuff.
Nick is in a 3-piece. You do predominantly classic rock, blues.
It's classic rock, blues, dance, rock, covers stuff. It's
Cool.
all just tunes people know. We
Jammy
do Sublime,
stuff, yeah.
BB King. We jam it out because we all just like we're buddies and we like to
Yeah.
play guitar. You know?
Exactly.
So
That's
both
awesome.
of your sonic spaces are fairly different.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So let's dial in something on the tone hammer.
Okay, cool.
Coolio.
You want to start with Will?
Yeah.
I'll dial it if you would.
Well, I want to hear your
okay.
ideal live tone for what you're doing.
So, right off the bat, one of the most important things, in my opinion, for a good live tone is a mid-frequency selector knob.
Which this
Tone
has.
Hammer
500 has.
Awesome stuff. And does the SVT Classic have a frequency knob?
It does.
Okay, cool. See, I didn't realize
It's
that.
a 5-way position, right?
Yeah, it's a
That's
5-way
right.
position, and then it also has like a volume knob for mid.
Okay,
which
so mid-level, mid-frequency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the weird thing about Ampeg, though, is that you don't start hearing the mid-frequency until you turn the mids like almost off, and then you hear like it ends up being like very much a sculpting.
Yeah, what it's
of
doing.
that.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then they have on the V4B and the SVT VR, they got the 3-way, like the rocker switch, you know, instead of a 5 position.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is pretty cool, too. Anyway, this one's just got a knob. It's just what is that called? Cut. With like, there's not notches. Like, it's like a free spin. There's there a name for that? Kind of like how concentric
it would
is, like,
be
stacked.
no. There's you have graphic EQ and you have parametric EQ.
Parametric. Okay, it's like a parametric
I want
mid-frequency
to
selector.
find the specific of which bands this manipulates.
Oh, yeah, that's good to know, because I don't know that.
Okay, mid-frequency, it'll go from 180 hertz at its lowest to 1K at its highest.
Okay, that's a pretty good sweep.
Yeah, not bad.
Okay, so here I go.
Oh,
I'm
and then
gonna
also,
start
real
twiddling.
quick, the bass on this amp is 40 hertz. You can booster cut by 17. You can booster cut the mids by 16, and the treble is 4 kilohertz. You can booster cut by 14.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so 40 hertz at the bottom, 4 kilohertz at the top, and sweepable 180 to 1K in the mid.
Nice. Okay, cool. I'm going to start fiddling over here.
Fiddling.
Should I go for something I would use live or something I
Yeah,
would use?
something you
Okay.
would use live.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the way I usually do it with them is I'll get something pretty gnarly like this, like pretty gritty. And like at first listen, it just sounds like too much, you know what I mean? Like you're really kind of driving it, but it's got like a deceptive low end in there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't quite hear it, but you feel it, like you know it's there. And I feel like that's kind of how I like to do it live with them, because it's kind of like, you know, when you hear like the bass, but you don't quite hear it, like you just know it's there, like you feel that pulse and all that stuff. That's kind of how I like it to be. So it's almost like a 2 instruments, you know what I mean? There's like the low end and then there's the present side. So I kind of like to find a balance, and this amp does it really, really well because that 40.
See, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, because that is not a type of tone that I would dial in just chilling in my room.
Oh yeah, definitely not. You know?
Yeah.
And like you're right. I would not ever do anything like that in my room.
So
Especially
what are your knob values in the o'clock?
Okay, so my gain is going to be at about 10 o'clock. And then I got the drive at 3-ish. My mid level is also at about 3 o'clock. My mid frequency is at
looks like 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, I would say. Yeah, bass is also at 2 o'clock, and then I got treble at noon. So it's a kind of an odd setup, but it works really well, especially in the mix with two guitarists where we're like just making a ton of noise. You know what I mean?
So you're more leaning in the upper mids.
Yeah, upper mids are like my shit, especially with these pickups because they have that low mid bump. Mm-hmm. So I don't need to compensate for that low mid. I can bring in those high mids and get the attack that I like. You know?
Now, real quick for reference, where can people see videos of your band?
Oh man, we don't have. I think we do have a YouTube channel. I think it's just called Knucklehead, but I'm not totally sure. I know that we definitely have Instagram. It's just going to be Knucklehead. I think it's Knucklehead Official on Instagram
without the K.
Yeah, it's Nuckle. Knuckle.
And you guys will be playing Surf Rodeo this year.
And we're playing Surf Rodeo in Ventura, California on July, I want to say, we're playing the 16th? 15th?
I don't know.
16th?
I'm just backlining it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be a lot of fun,
it.
too. So we could always put links to.
Yeah.
So I know you can find
I'll
those online. I just don't know exact.
Because I have a couple videos of you guys on my personal YouTube. Chris Kakamis. There's a picture, silly picture of me with sunglasses and a big cheesy smile.
But the best way to hear my tone is to come see us live.
Yes.
Because any bassist knows that watching a cell phone recorded video.
Well, I don't record cell phone. I got the
That's
legit
true. You
stuff.
have legit stuff.
I don't play.
But for the most part, it's like pretty, people just filmed it because they were there.
Yeah.
And you miss a lot of the essence of bass guitar in that kind of situation. But yeah, we have a YouTube channel. We got Instagram. We have Facebook. We got all the good stuff.
Cool. Nice.
So Knucklehead, Nucklehead official.
Go to Facebook and like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see me.
We're good at marketing.
Yeah.
That was pretty smooth. That was pretty smooth.
Okay, I want to hear. Why don't you guys switch seats so Nick can be closer to the amp? I want to hear
Okay.
Nick's ideal live tone.
Cool.
And in the spirit of kind of what we discussed with the geezers being a little bit more appropriate in a 3-piece, let's have Nick dial in with the geezer.
Okay.
Okle doke.
One of the things I like to do when I have a mid-frequency, like a parametric mid-frequency, is I'll just max out the mid-level and then just roll throughout the frequency. You know what I mean? To
I
hear
do the
the
same
one that I
thing.
really like and then pull it back to where I need
And
it.
like Nick was saying earlier, sometimes it's fun to cut it all the way.
Yeah, like listen
Figure
for
out-
the one you really don't like and then just pull it all the way back. That's cool.
Gain is very low. I like a pretty clean signal. And then if I'm going to be using any kind of overdrives or distortions, I'm using the MXR Bass Overdrive Deluxe, if I remember correctly. This is
I remember that is what you were using.
Yeah, it's my main. Yeah, there's like a rotating cast of like fuzzes that I tend to incorporate, but that one's my primary drive, and I use that for a lot of the hard balls to the wall rock stuff. But mid levels, I'd say about, I don't know, definitely bumped past noon. Bass is almost 3 o'clock. Damn. Lot of low end on this dude. Treble is what, onesie twosie. Treble and mid, I'd say, are about 2 o'clock. Bass is between 2 and 3. So there's a lot of low end going on.
Nice.
Not a ton of bass. No, excuse me, not a ton of mid range because the precision bass just inherently has a lot of mid range punch, especially when you add it at louder volumes.
And which is what you primarily play.
Yeah, I mean when I'm when I'm going to be gigging or whatever, then yeah, like it's obviously it's going to be loud because I'm playing in front of a crowd, and the P bass itself, especially when you pair it with the Ampeg, the Ampeg has got low end on tap. Like I tend to, for my SVT Classic, my bass is like rolled way down, and my mids are rolled way down, and my trebles rolled way up because those are super dark speakers, and that seems to get me good, punchy, clear sound. But in this situation, definitely heavy on the mid range and on the low end. Not too much on the bright stuff, just enough to cut through. And I actually closed the tone a little bit off on your Geezer Butler pickups here, just because the Pro Steels are a little bright. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if I were to do something like oh man, I'm super sloppy right now. I'm like had a long day at work. So fair amount of low end because I'm keeping in mind, people are going to be like trying to dance, and I'm not going to be doing a lot of soloing. If I'm going to be doing some soloing, I don't always want it to sound like a bass. I kind of want it to almost like if I'm going to take a solo, I'll usually kick on my wah, and that helps me cut through, or at least stand a little bit further forward in the mix. That tends to give me enough attention.
Do you do like when you use your wah? Do you wah it, or do you just kind of cock it to get a different frequency in there?
I have the MXR bass envelope.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, it's expressive.
Okay, nice.
It's just a straight up envelope filter. It's that Bootsy Collins in me, dude. Just something about rocking with the wah.
Yeah, those little quacks.
Yeah. Well,
that's the greatest.
I have it set so it doesn't fully sweep unless I really crack down on it. So I tend to get like a whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, and then if you get some like big plucks, or
and then if it
really opens up. Okay, that makes sense.
That's
nice.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, going back to your Ampeg, you're talking about how that thing's got low end on tap. I was just doing some research because I'm going to get one soon. And I was reading that the cabinets produce like 28 hertz. Like that's their lowest frequency that comes out of those, which is like...
I know.
That's crazy.
I know. It's like I was really upset with it for a long time until I figured out how to wrangle it. Mm-hmm. And because it's the one I have, the SVT Classic is all tube. It's 300 watts of just tube.
Yeah.
So you gotta push it before it starting to sound good. Uh-huh. And unfortunately, it doesn't have like a watt like choke.
Attenuator type
it doesn't
thing.
have an attenuator. Uh-huh. So I have to be freaking loud before that thing starts sounding good. But when it does, man, it'll watch out.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm kind of at a toss up between the V4B and the SVT VR, just because it's like a 300 watt versus a 100 watt. Whereas like I really like to get that gritty push tone, but I need volume too. So it's tough. Orange makes the AD200B, and I feel like if Ampeg made a 200 watt amp, I'd be so stoked.
That Orange got thumbs down for me all around.
I'm not a big fan of the gain structure. It's got nice low end, but
I'm not even worried about the gain structure. I'm just talking about just the tonal complexity of the amp itself. I thought it was like I feel like a lot of Orange stuff is like kind of a one trick pony.
That's kind of true.
It's like, dude, like if you want to play Doom, I'm all about it. Like I love Orange. You got to get the Voice of the World speakers or whatever.
It's like a Thunderverb or something crazy.
Yeah, I mean they sound cool, but it's like they kind of do the one thing, and it's like I sort of need an amp that kind of does a couple different things, which is why I really like the Tone Hammer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember getting some comments when we did the Tone Hammer video. There were people saying like, "Dude, I didn't even know this thing could do that." Because when you think Aguilar Tone Hammer, you think R&B. Any kind of like real thumpy Motowny type of tones.
Right.
They push those tones on their website,
which makes sense though because they do it better than anyone I've heard in a long time.
They do a superb job,
but they do a great job on that grindy stuff and that really like hi-fi stuff, especially with the new AG700 because it's got that deep switch and the bright switch. You know what I mean? And so it really like once you get that one, you got all your bases covered.
Let's real
for the
quick
most
just
part.
give an honorable mention to the Aggro.
The Aggro's amazing
goodness.
too. Same with the Fuzzistor, the filter twin. I mean everything. Aguilar makes unbelievable stuff. You can tell that they really. Their R&D team like puts a lot of effort into something before they release it.
I want to take a day off work with just the optimizer and the filter twin and just sit down with that.
Will's got the filter twin.
I have the filter twin.
Yeah,
you get the optimizer. Let me know.
We had the optimizer. We bought it and returned it so we could do the video.
Right.
It sounded great though. It was one of the best sounding octaves I've ever heard. Like sub octaves, and then the Chorosaurus is amazing too.
Is the optimizer? Is it a sub octave or is it like a sub harmonic, like the DoD Meat Box or like the TC 7-Up?
I think it's like a sub octave.
No, it's not like the 7-Up.
Okay,
because I know what you mean. I hate those. I hate them.
I'm not into sub harmonics.
Your OC2 is my favorite. That thing is so sweet.
I feel like a big, huge part of having not only big, low, rumbly bass, but being a bassist in general is to be punchy. And when you get those 7-Up DoD sub harmonic type things, there's no punchiness. You know what I mean?
What they do is they're meant to be like PA busters. So like
that makes sense.
Ideally, if you can get like a 7-Up or a Me Box and do like a second line out to a PA system and do it for the end of a song where it's just like, and it's just blowing up speakers, that's rad. That'll shake a drummer off, big time. So they have kind of a particular purpose, but they have a specific
But I do
porpoise.
like the more the sub harmonic thing on guitar more.
Yeah, it works better for guitar than it does bass.
Especially if you're just playing by yourself. It's just like, my windows are rattling. I'm just playing an E chord.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And then
flat if you're me.
There's, oh man, I don't remember which. I want to say it's one of the Boss octaves, but I'm not totally sure. You can set like parameters where it only does sub octaves up to a certain note or something like that. So a lot of people will use that. Like if they don't have a bassist and they're doing a guitar, they'll like set the parameters between like open E and A.
I'm unfamiliar
so
with
anytime they're playing those notes, it'll do that sub octave, but it won't sub the higher register stuff.
That's cool.
And I don't remember if it's Boss or what, but I saw somebody do it online one time, and I was like blown away. It was the coolest thing ever.
I sold my OC3. I kind of want to get it back. I liked it.
Let's get an OC2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not particularly easy to come by. I've been
That's
very
true,
fortunate.
but
Both of my
Nick's
OC2s.
got
They're easy to
two.
come by, but they're not easy
Nick's
to drop the
got
money
I
on.
do. I have two. I have
two?
two OC2s. Well, I don't make them. I got it. That like guys collect fuzzes. I collect octaves.
Yeah,
You
but
know
like
what I
people
mean?
collect different fuzzes.
I collect choruses.
People get one fuzz and then a different one. People aren't like two Russian big muffs unless you're Jeremy.
I bought. Yeah. God
Jeremy.
forbid.
Shout out to Jeremy Gift at Instrumental Music Ventura.
The man with the plan about fuzz.
I love how you get like really close up.
Yeah,
on
the man with the plan. So I can talk like really quietly.
I scored both my OC2s actually at Instrumental Music. There's a dude who was like trying to sell his, and
Yeah, you told me about
yeah, and then there was a
Oh,
dude.
you told me about.
And then
that
there was
too.
there was one that was like broken, and the guy was like, he wanted to sell it to me, and it turned out it was actually broken. And I was like, I tell you what, I'll give it to you for X amount of dollars. And he's like, okay, okay, fine, done. And it was like a $2 part, and I fixed it. I was like, done and done.
Nice.
So there's like one thing I wish I had mentioned on the OC2 video when I did. It's like one of my biggest regrets going back is like real talk. There are two settings on that OC2. There are two. Okay, octave 2 off, octave 1 all the way on, and it's either the like mix knob at 12 o'clock for the Pinot Palladino or completely sub for the Nerve Jojo Mayer for the Jojo Mayer setting. Like that's it.
Yeah.
If you use the OC2 any other way, just buy a guitar because like that's your bass is like that's where it's happy and that's where it's best is those two settings. Octave 2 all the way off, octave 1 all the way on, and so the mix knob at 12 o'clock for the Pinot Palladino or completely sub for the Jojo Mayer. It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the Boss, like just their sub octave is just unparalleled in my opinion. It's just the greatest thing I've ever heard. And like
Even
some
the
people
OC3
like
is
some
great.
people like a more natural sounding one, like the Optimizer.
Yeah.
That one sounds more organic, like a real sub octave. Whereas the OC2 and the OC3 both sound like fake ones, but in the best way. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Oh man, I love them. They're so cool. I'm surprised I don't have one yet.
I'm curious to try the 3-leaf audio octave.
3-leaf makes some great stuff. So yeah.
Oh man, 3-leaf audio has that Tim LaFay
Yeah.
signature one.
The octave.
Yeah.
It's pronounced that way, but it's spelled all weird.
yeah.
It's spelled like his last name.
Yeah.
F something.
Brian Lefebvre.
Tim yeah. Who's that?
You're not a It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan?
Oh, it's been a minute. I am,
Oh.
but
Brian Lefebvre. 3-leaf makes a really cool envelope filter also.
Yeah,
I forgot what
Proton.
it's called.
Proton.
Well, yeah,
They
they
have
make the
Proton
Proton, but they
V2,
make the
the
big-
Wonder Love.
the Wonder Love, the big pink one or the big purple one. That is
Yeah.
like superb. That thing is so cool.
Expensive as all hell, but
Oh yeah.
but super cool.
I don't know. I wonder if they're at NAMM. I didn't see them.
There's too much to
There's
see. At
so
NAMM.
much to see.
It's hard.
painful. Even in 4 days, it's
are you
just
guys
not
going
enough
to
time.
NAMM this year?
I hope so. Can you get
my
us
goal
in?
is to go every year until
I'm
I
gonna
die.
try.
My goal is to be able to not have to ask someone to get me passes. My goal is to have Basic Gear Review be like an event.
That would be
Like
rad.
an attraction.
Or like, we'll be like at Boss's thing
Or
as Basic Gear Review.
something,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Because I don't necessarily want to have like my own thing, but to like be featured there.
Well,
would be really,
not a booth,
really cool.
but people,
Yeah.
Do you want to go to Bass Player Live with us this year?
Oh God, yeah.
Dude bailed last time, but
I
can
know.
come this time.
God, what happened? Something
true.
went south.
Something really went south. If I remember correctly.
It
Like,
was like I think one of the kids like spiked like an over 100-degree fever or something like that.
yeah, it was something crazy.
And
like
like
that.
Mama was already sick too. Wesley was already sick, so I was like, okay, cool guys,
That's
I'm
what
out.
it was. You're like, I have to stay
yeah,
here.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
bummer.
Yeah, because when you got Mama and one of the babies at 100-degree fever, I'm pushing double, triple duty. You know,
Oh yeah.
so
Next year. Let's hope everyone's in. You got to get a shit ton of like medicines and things. Like you guys are okay, right? So, like, trying to go to this.
just wrap everyone in bubble wrap and make them drink half a bottle of NyQuil. Just go to sleep. Go to sleep.
On NyQuil and Dayquil.
Yeah.
Here's vitamin C. You'll be fine.
Pin a 20 to Ben's chest. Order a pizza. I'm gone.
You'll be
Bye.
fine. This will get you
It's only 2 days.
Yeah.
$20 for 2 days and 3 people. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to get him a good pizza. Like
that's true.
you
You
know.
get Little Caesars
You get
every
Little
night for like
Caesars,
a
Domino-
week.
Yeah. Or, I mean, you could get Jimmy John's, but then you have to wait an hour and a half for it to show up.
Oh God.
Stop. I'm trying to have fun.
Hey, man, we're all trying to have fun here, all right?
Stop.
All right. So before we wrap it up, Nick, do you have any other things you'd like to share about live tone, live playing?
One thing I did want to bring up, too, is a lot of playing in the studio is making sure that you're on it and making sure you're focused and make sure you have a clean tone or, like, appropriately overdriven, distorted tone, whatever's necessary. But with live, you have to be in tune with like so much stuff that's going on. You know, it's more than just what your tone is. Obviously, that's a huge like part of it. But you know you got to be listening to your other bandmates because doing stuff on the fly. Like for us, like a lot of our stuff is improv. You know, I mean, we never play a song the same way twice. You know, I mean, like there's obviously like certain hits that we'll do, or like there's a certain lick that I like to do to lead into X, Y, and Z. You know, but like I mean, we'll totally reorganize the song on the fly. You know.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun. You know,
you guys play together so much that you're so just.
We've been playing.
You guys are like a
6 years.
unit. It's obvious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like 3 dudes. It's like you guys are one thing.
We have been the Seaside Band for like 6 years now,
and it's obvious. It's
Yeah,
apparent.
real
it's
quick.
really good.
Plug the hell out of your band.
Oh yeah.
Again, we're so good at marketing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little sleeper. Yeah, no, it's a group called the Seaside Band, and we're just local. It's all cover rock dance party stuff, like I was telling you. But it's all cover band stuff. It's fun, man. I'm a pretty fortunate dude to get to play with those 2 musicians because, my God, like they are so remarkable. Between like Rick and Ricardo and Mike, they're really talented musicians and all around solid dudes. So getting to play in our group is it's a privilege.
It's tough to come across a good musician and a solid person in the same human.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got really lucky because you are also a great musician and a
piece of
solid
shit.
person. So.
No, thank you. Thanks, man.
Yeah,
that means
of
a lot.
course.
Feelings mutual, dude. High fives.
Thank you. Oh man,
Ooh.
my chest.
Hopefully that was loud enough to catch on
that's
the
definitely
microphone.
good.
That was pretty good. That's
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah. But no, yeah, one thing, like when you're working in the studio, you gotta be focused. You gotta make sure you got a clean tone, make sure you have your parts absolutely memorized before you step into the studio. You know, I like to see people go in the studio, just like still writing materials. Like, dude, come on. Like I've gotten hired by those people. I've gotten hired by those people to like, here's your part. Oh, lol, psych. Here's your part. Oh, cool. Wait, that sounds cool. Lol, psych. Here's your part. I'm like, cool, dude. You're still gonna pay me. Like whatever. You're wasting your time at this point. I'm getting paid.
Want it to sound like you're in a cabin.
Oh man, yeah, that was.
Are we allowed to talk about that?
That was a. Well, I just don't want to. I don't want to say the person's name.
No.
But I literally one time I got.
I haven't even heard the story. I'm already laughing.
Oh,
They're
this
not
is a
even-
great story.
I want like I instinctively want to say I got lead sheets, but there were no chords. They were just like directions, and it was like, so this song. Imagine that like, you're in a. Okay, let me put on my NPR voice here. Yeah, you're stepping out of your cabin on a crisp fall morn in the Pacific Northwest, and you have a freshly ground cup of coffee in your hand, and you open the door, and the sun is shining, but there's still the bitter cold dew on the flowers that hang from the. What is the chord? What is the root note?
So G sharp minor.
So yeah, exactly.
Just know exactly what he's talking about.
Oh man, like what is my chord structure?
shit.
She's like, you gotta just feel it. You gotta feel it. And this person was like, yeah, some of my biggest bass influences are like Flea and John Entwistle, and I'm like, dude, yeah, the Ox, man. Like she likes some serious. And so I was giving her some like rock and bass lines, and she's like, I don't like it. And I was like, okay, well, and she's like, can you just dial it back a little bit? Can you just dial it back a little bit? It's really good. It's really good. Dial it back a little bit more until I was literally just going boom, boom.
That's my favorite Flea line.
boom.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Just straight quarter note.
That's some
super-
Thunderfinger stuff. Right?
Yeah, really. Play super tight. She's like, yeah, you're getting kind of percussive. Like, maybe settle down. Like, oh, maybe just give me my money so I can go home now.
Yeah, maybe we should just ixnay this whole thing.
So maybe that's why I play live so much, because like a lot of the time I've had in the studio has been absolutely a nightmare.
Yeah, me too. I'm not very good at studio stuff. I choke up big time. But at the end, it sounds good. But it takes a while. It takes us some time.
Verse
to get
by
through
verse,
Yeah.
You nail a verse and we stop.
Lars Ulrich style.
Write some more.
Lars Ulrich style.
Yeah. I just do like a little bit, and then we just piece it all together.
Yeah.
Just loop the drum track in Pro Tools.
Oh man, that's so
Oh
funny.
man.
You have any closing thoughts on Live Tone before we wrap it up?
Like I said, it's all a matter of like where you're playing and who you're playing with. Like Nick was saying too, we're kind of just broken records over here saying the same things, but it's like really important to these things. So live, it's all about where you are and who you're playing with. In the studio, you can do almost anything. You know what I mean?
For the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, and you can get it to work. So it's just a matter of having the right gear for what you're trying to sound like as well. That's a big deal, because if you don't have, like, if you're trying to get this Motown thumpy stuff and you're using a Fender Bassman, it's not really going to totally do it, because it just doesn't have those dimensions. You know what I mean? So it's a mixture of making sure you dial everything in correctly, but also having gear that gets you where you want to be.
Yeah, and see, and the reason I brought this up, speaking of gear, I was on, I think it was talkbass.com. That's really, to be fair, that's the only bass forum I go on. So I'm pretty sure it was talkbass.com. Are you a fan?
Big time.
Okay. Somebody was mentioning some of the starter line amps have that, that contour switch.
Yeah.
So when you're in the store, it gives the salesman an easy out to be like, look how good it sounds. And you hit the contour switch and like, oh, shit, this sounds really good. But you can't use that live. So that's kind of why someone was talking about that and how that contour switch is not the ideal tone in a mix. So that's kind of why I wanted to get your guys' opinion on it.
I agree with that. Contouring is nice, and it could work, in the right
but
setting.
I think a lot of the amp manufacturers put it in there as a sales tactic. We can move more if we can make people who aren't quite as educated think that this is a great amp.
And a lot of times people scoop the mids right off the bat just because it does sound cool, and it's really nice, especially for bass. It cleans up your tone so much, but in order to be present and be heard, you have to have a certain mid frequency
mids
happening.
Are very
you know what I
important,
mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be boosted like crazy. Like Nick said that his was cut, but like it was still, it was still above 12 o'clock, but it wasn't, booming or anything crazy. So it's really important to get a mid frequency that lets you stand out, because scooping it is just, you're just going to get lost.
Right. Every single one of my knobs on the tone hammer right now, you guys can see it, is past 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's almost like 12 o'clock is the zero. You know what I mean? And then from there you move. So
Right. Now, again, if we were much louder, that might be different. But, and I think that more speaks to the size of the room. That's one thing I have to reiterate, is like there is no perfect tone. There is a perfect tone when you're in the studio, when you have a completely controlled environment. But like, dude, I play in a rock band. Like you and I both play in rock bands. Or even like when I'm playing jazz, man. Even when I'm trying to play, Autumn Leaves or whatever. It was one song that I was really working on last night. Try to work out all the kinks and do like chord progressions and changes and stuff. It's like, man, it sounds okay in my living room, which is going to sound great, which probably not going to sound good at Amigos, which is probably not going to sound good at the Tavern, which is probably not going to sound good at the Hut. What sounds good at the Hut is not going to sound good at the Tavern. What sounds good at the Tavern is not going to sound good at Amigos. Sounds good. It's like you got to be all kind of in tune with that stuff.
Yeah.
You
really have to know your gear well too.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because some people get stuck. They don't dial in with their ears. They dial in with their eyes. Well, no, my tone is at the mids are always at 2 o'clock. Why doesn't it sound good?
Well, if the mids are always at 2 o'clock, if you never move your amp, that sounds perfect. If you move your amp, you're even to the other side of the room facing a different way, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because everything changes. And I'm like such a stickler about my tone. I'm so picky about it. That's why like on that was close to what I would get, but if it were a perfect world, I would have been there for like another 20, 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Same here, totally.
And so when you go to a different show like that, it's like, oh man, you got to like get there ahead of time and like get ready for what you're going to do, because I'm so picky about how my tone is perceived. You know what I mean? So it's tough, but in the end, it's totally worth it, especially if you dial something in that like works perfectly with the room and the people you're playing with. It's one of the most gratifying feelings.
It takes time, too. Like
it really does.
Like as soon as I bought my SVT Classic, I almost sold it. I was like, I don't like it. It's not right, blah. And then Classic with me, I finally get this thing that I've been wanting forever, and I'm like, don't like it. But no, I was like, no, I've wanted this since I was like 15. Yeah, really, Classic with me. But no, now that I've spent some time with it and really explored, I'm very happy with it. And I will say, like, any piece of gear, if you work long enough with it and try to figure out in a different situation, you can make it work. I mean, we saw that when we did the Squier P bass stuff and the Squier Jazz bass stuff. Like there's a lot of those that were fully giggable. So I mean, I'll never say that the gear makes the player. It just complements who you are, maybe, and it just maybe makes your job a little, gives you new creative outlet, or maybe makes it a little bit more comfortable. I want to see that too. Especially
in like basic gear review situations, like a lot of people say in the comments that like I play the effect really well. You know what I mean? Because how like what you're hearing will suddenly like completely change how you're going to do everything, and that's the case with just a bass and an amp too. Even though it's less of a noticeable big difference, if you have a different tone, you're going to play differently no matter what.
Right.
So
it's going to make you speak differently.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's really about what you're using and how you know how to use it, or if you know how to use it.
Yeah, finding ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right, well, we are just about out of time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you've made it this far, definitely let us know what you'd like to hear us discuss in future episodes. And before we wrap, I'd like to say, again, huge thanks to our Patreon supporters, and a huge thanks to Instrumental Music in Ventura. Again, they really make what we do possible. Otherwise, we'd be broke, and we would only have made 5 videos,
and we wouldn't know Nick.
And we wouldn't know Nick.
Oh, dude, I'm equally as happy, man. You guys are my buddies. Like,
cool,
this
man.
This is a lot of fun. I'm happy.
We're a full unit now.
Woo! Seaside Band 2.0.
Speaking of Seaside Band and Basic Gear Review, we did just release a
rig rundown.
I don't know if we can say that term because it might be trademarked. But we
the
call it
lowdown.
The lowdown.
The lowdown. So we're gonna try to do more of that in the future with local bands, and then if we can cream dream for a moment, it would be cool to get some more bigger acts. But for the moment, we will definitely give the love to the local bands in our Ventura area. But anyway, thank you all for listening. And Nick, do you want to play us out?
Yeah.
Before we go,
Play us out. I don't know what that means. Play us out.
Play us out. What does that mean? Oh man,
we'll do it live.
Sting is going to play us out. What is that? What does that mean?
Brilliant.
Oh shit.
All right, let's think here.